The Wiggins thing, your comment, I think it hit me a certain way. I don't want to put any of my family stuff on blast, but I do have teenagers. And, we're at that time where grades and sports and all of these things are blending together. And as adults, we're like, your future. And so
you need a 4.3 to get into Cal Poly.
My gosh, we're sitting there at their bedroom door every day. Do you have this taken care of? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? They're like, oh, yeah, we got it. And then the teacher emails. It's like they don't got it.
Look at you. You're very proactive. I just kind of hope for the best.
Well, no, that's kind of what my philosophy has been. And then when you hope for the best and you don't get the best, then you kind of start looking at yourself. You're like, am I just standing here watching this? So it hit me a certain way when you're like, just tell him to focus on blank, and I bet it'll go great. And I immediately was like, oh, is that all we need to do? We just need to tell him, right? Once we tell him, then I'm sure he'll know. He's been playing
You're comparing him to a 14-year-old.
Can we not? He's been in the league for a decade, and here we are for the 9th time in 10 years going, gosh, if we could just get him to engage. If we could just get him to dial and lock in. If we could just get him to... I don't know, man.
Is it possible?
My expectations are changing.
Can I go with a theory here? Is it possible that Wiggins, because he really can do a lot of things, when you change up the chemistry, when you change up the roster, when you move some players in and out, he can adapt his game to them to a large degree. And so maybe it takes him 12 to 15 games to kind of find rhythm because he can play on the perimeter. He could be a rebounder. He could be a defender. He can be a little bit of a facilitator. He can be a little bit of a defender shot blocker. He's so multifaceted and is such an easygoing personality that he is the guy that will naturally blend, but it doesn't happen like that. It takes 15 games, 20 games. Like if we're sitting here and it's Christmas and it's New Year's and he's still having lines of 4 points, 5 boards, 22 minutes, 2 of 9 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3, then maybe there needs to be a little bit more harsh assessment. I just get the sense that they've made some changes and he's just kind of, he's kind of low energy watching the game's being replayed from last night. I was watching it during the exchange there, and it's like he got a nice little tip in, but he just kind of moving gingerly up and down the floor.
Though. That's his look. You know what I mean? Like we know. Here's what bothers everyone. Everyone knows it's in there. It's in there. The second you did what you did to Luka a year and a half ago, everyone went, oh my God, there it is. It's in there. We knew that the physical skills were in there, but like, dude, that streak, that emotional streak that goes through the core of your body that just makes you do stuff like that, it's in there, but it's not going to show up very often, and that's frustrating to people. I get it.
It's also a marathon. I mean,
yeah. I'm not like blowing off this season.
The first marathon that you run, you're probably burning all kinds of energy in the first 5 miles that once you're on your 20th marathon, you're just trying to get through and warm up in that first 5 miles.
20 marathons.
I'm just saying, the people, this is a marathon. They will not, if Warriors play in the finals, we'll be like literally discussing like, what are you doing on the 4th of July right around the finals?
Right.
It was just Halloween. There's a lot of time. And this guy just looks like a guy he's been in the league a long time. He kind of knows the pace of the thing. There's a lot of new players, and he's just he's slowly finding his way. He had 6 rebounds last night. That's not bad, but 2 of 9, 0 for 2 from 3. Didn't get to the line a lot. Only took 2 free throws. Just kind of -4 on the plus minus for the night. Couple turnovers. Just kind of 1 steal, 1 block.
I wouldn't sugarcoat it, though, because of what you're watching Steve Kerr do. Like, he's changing his rotations on the fly, and more often than not, in key moments, he's choosing to leave Andrew out. So that speaks volumes.
Maybe he's trying to kickstart him a little bit.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the way to kickstart Andrew Wiggins. You know what I mean? When someone's disengaged and you fight that by disengaging from them, they're just like, okay, fine. You know what I mean? I'll go back to the teenager analogy. If you leave them alone in the room, they're just going to turn the TV on and fine by them.
Right.
Right? So I don't think Andrew is sitting there freaking out about it. Look at every action he's taken in his life, from always being told in Minnesota you don't have that dog in you, to being someone who was willing to take less than market value to stay with the Golden State Warriors and all of their other stars and just kind of be with them. He doesn't have, and this is very NBA too. It's very unique, I think, to the NBA. Doesn't mean that there aren't those kind of alpha personalities in football and baseball. There obviously are, but baseball, your skills kind of show up in an individual way while on a team. In football, the team concept can never be better. There's just so many people doing so many different key things in one play. The NBA is where we can really see, are you alpha or are you beta? He's beta. He just is. He's never, ever, ever going to be alpha, except for when he dunked on Luka. So for 5 seconds out of his life, the guy went alpha.
He blends.
Outside of that, he's beta. And again,
guy's made $200 million.
Dude, he's a very good player, but I'm going to strategically not use the word great. He is a very good player. You can win a championship with him. We saw it. There will be nights where you're like, damn, he's the best player on the floor. There might even be weeks where he's the best player on the team. But if you get to the point where you then rely on that and expect that, you're cooked and he's going to disappoint you. So I just get split, because while I'm frustrated by what he can do yet doesn't consistently, I also believe what I just said to Goo a few minutes ago, which is that there's no room for Andrew to be alpha on this team.
Right.
Jordan tried to be alpha. Now he's on the Wizards.
He fits. And I don't worry about Wiggins. I mean, but don't forget what we're talking about. He has made $200 million. He's got guaranteed money, through 26, 27 at 26, 28, $30 million. It's a marathon.
Why does the money matter to you?
Because that's what people play for. That's one of their motivating factors. And if once you're financially set, once you've got your first contract, your second contract, maybe he's pacing himself. Maybe he's pacing himself physically. Maybe he's starting to feel the mileage of an NBA. The guy's played a lot of basketball, and he knows that the titles are contended for in May and June.
Yeah.
And he kind of knows that you got to kind of get through the season. And maybe he's not dialed up with ferocity, but maybe that's to be expected.
It's an interesting comment, though, because you say, okay, he's made his money, and he's been in the league for a long time. He's played a lot of basketball. All those comments that you made are twice as true for Steph, Clay, and Dre. They've made more. They've played more. They're older. They've achieved more. They all look like they have the pedal to the metal right now. Steph's playing phenomenal. Draymond's had an absurd start. He looks like an offensive player all of a sudden. Clay, after one bad game, sort of locked in to his shot selection, I feel. It's not like he's gone on a huge heater yet, but he's doing about what you would want him to do. Like, fit in, have the shots be right, be your second leading scorer, and score somewhere between 15 to 20 points a night. They're all doing it. So why would Andrew Wiggins take his foot off the gas in the name of money and time?
There could be so many things, Mark. First of all, any NBA, and who knows? Who knows? At the end of the day, we don't know. We're guessing. But you're running up and down on a hardwood floor. Maybe he's feeling the beginnings of plantar fasciitis. Maybe he's feeling the stress of the thing on his feet and ankles. Maybe he knows, hey man, I can't be the same runner, jumper, leaper, and get through this season. Maybe he's coasting a little bit. Maybe he's blending to new teammates. Maybe he's lost a little bit of fire. Maybe he didn't have a lot of fire. I don't know. I don't know. All these things I think are possible. But I'm not that concerned, because I think this guy, one, he knows how to play. I would love to see him just emphasize the rebounding, because that's to me where, at 6'8", he can get a lot of rebounds.
I agree with you. What's crazy is if you go back to that playoff run a year and a half ago, it seemed like he was aware that was the light bulb that went on. You know, he had a lot of plays around the rim, putbacks, whatnot, but that rebounding, he said as much. I remember him sharing a story during the Dallas series where he's like, Draymond came and talked to me, and you know, like there was a night where I think Wiggins had maybe like double-digit boards, and they looked at some stat sheets, and a historical note came up. And I forget what it was, but it was something along the lines of like, hey, that's the most rebounds Andrew Wiggins has ever had in a game, or it's only the third time in his career he's had double-digit rebounds, something like that. And the guys in the locker room were like, what? How? How with your skills have you never done this before? And Wiggins said, light bulb. Light bulb went on, and I realized that's who I need to be on this team. And then he did it for about 3 more weeks, and they won a ring, and he'd never done it again. It's like, no, the light bulb didn't go on. He went on a heater, and he was phenomenal. I don't know what the hell got into him for those 2 months. It was great, but have we ever seen it again? Are we ever going to see it again?
But, I mean, this is also, you know, when you do coast, I mean, we're talking about coasting, but when you do kind of blend in and you're not a alpha, you're more of a beta, you're more kind of blending into the rest of the team, you know, there are examples of how that works well on a lot of teams. Not everybody, the team can't be full of just guys who just are going to take over the game. Sometimes you got to have some guys who just kind of fill in around those guys. You know, maybe he's found his rhythm and he's settled into a rhythm, but I think there's more there. I think they'll be able to get more out of him. I really do. I mean, to me, the guy's a smart player. He's a two-way player. Steiny's saying, what does he do? I mean, I think potentially he can defend, rebound, and beat his man to the dribble and create for others.
That's what I mean. He can do everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes. He just can't do it most of the time.
He plays with a better pace than Kuminga, where Kuminga sometimes is rushed into turnovers.
Kuminga's still a baby. I look at those two players completely differently. Jonathan Kuminga, I think largely these first few games, he's taken some of the steps that we want to see him take. But we also are leaving still a lot of room for this is still a growing player. This is a really young player.
He's just finding out how good he is.
Exactly. So I do see some of the work that he put in the offseason. You can see it in his game, and so that's awesome. Andrew is a cooked pie. You know what I mean? Like this has come out of the oven, and here it is. This is who you are. And so I don't know. I'm with you that I'm not concerned about him. I'm not down on him. I'm not any of these things. I do think that there's probably a little bit of expectation adjusting that we could and should do.
I mean, they're 6-2 out of the gate.
Yeah, that's why I'm not concerned. They look good.
Yeah, they look good, and maybe he's going to add add to the mix as everything gets settled. Maybe he's getting used to figuring out his teammates or maybe the new demands of the coaching staff. You do have some, you've got some new faces there. You've got a couple rookies. You got Saric. You got Paul. You've got some, you've got 5 or 6 new players on a 13-man team. That's kind of a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just kind of holding back and just kind of going through the motions. Now, once again, if we get to January and he's still just kind of out there not getting a lot done, then maybe he needs to come off the bench. Maybe he needs to, Kerr needs to make an adjustment. But I don't see a player who's making a lot of mistakes. I just see a player that kind of blends in so much that at times he's blending and not getting anything done.
I'll tell you what I really do love about the first 8 games of this team. That they really do look different in a way.